Coming up on Mountain News this morning, chilling 911 calls from Monday's mass shooting in Louisville are released to the public. And Governor Andy Beshear discusses the loss of one of his closest friends who died in that shooting.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, I'm Keaton Hall. The time is 6:01. A pretty nice day yesterday and the day before. Should be a pretty nice one today too, right, Brandon?
Exactly. I do think we're going to see one more nice day before things start to change up a little bit. But of course, like we've said all week, all good things must come to an end at some point. And again, I don't think it's going to be all-day washouts for the next couple of days, but I do think we're going to see those chances for rain return as early as tonight. Let's take a look, see what's going on across our region this morning. UVA-wise, one of the warmer spots there on the hillside, 55. Still kind of dark over there on campus this morning, but it'll start to lighten up here pretty soon. Some sensors out this morning, several of them. Prestonsburg, Pikeville, Harlan, Middlesboro, and Somerset. But the ones we have online show basically a wide range of temperatures, now down to 40 in Clintwood, Southwest Virginia. Typical, a little bit colder, but you see Wise over there, the Lonesome Pine Airport, up a little higher, so that's probably why that reading's a little bit warmer. But I think a general 40s and 50s out there this morning. Of course, Jackson, the warmest, right below 60 there at 59. 50 this morning, give or take a degree or two on one way or the other. 67 by almost lunchtime, and low 80s for daytime highs. We will see clouds increase as we head deeper into the afternoon and evening hours, though, thanks to the approaching system that's coming in from our south. More on that in just a little bit. Keaton?
Thank you, Brandon. We continue to learn more about the mass shooting at a Louisville bank that left 5 people dead and 8 others injured. Mayor Craig Greenberg says transparency is important, saying even more so in times of crisis like this. He says that's why the decision was made to release the 911 calls from the shooting. While parts of the audio have been redacted, he says to protect people's privacy, the audio does feature 12 calls. We want to warn you, it may be hard to listen to.
I just got a phone call from my wife at 333 East Main Street. The Old National Plaza, active shooter in the building.
Within minutes, calls started coming in from people with loved ones in the building.
We're at 324 East Main Street, and we see a cop down.
Yes, ma'am, we are.
From our condo, okay.
We are aware of it. We've got an active shooter at the bank there. We are aware.
And those across at nearby businesses. Witnessing the moment Officer Nicholas Wilt was shot in the head after running towards the shooter.
Okay, the officer who's been shot, is he conscious? Can you tell me, or do you know?
I can't see him move at all. I've been watching him consistently. I haven't seen a foot or anything move, and he went down right away when the bullets started firing.
Okay.
Terrified calls continue.
We are on the 4th floor. We're trying to get a status of what's going on. I mean, we're tucked under a desk right now.
This time coming from those hiding under furniture inside the building.
I know who it is. He's probably 6 feet tall. He's a young male. How do you know the person? He works with us.
And after her son's roommate called her, the gunman's mother called 911. She tells the operator he could be heading to the bank with a gun.
I think he's never hurt anyone. He's a really good kid. Please don't punish him.
Okay, he said he was headed to the Old National Bank. Did he say what he was going to do there?
I don't know. I don't know anything. We don't even own guns. I don't know where he would have gotten a gun.
Then, the moment she tells the dispatcher she plans to go to the bank herself.
Right. I don't want you to go to the location. We have a situation that's going on down there right now. We've already had calls from other people, and I do not need you to go to the location at this time, okay? It's dangerous there.
You've had calls from other people, so he's already there?
Learning it's too late.
Just all units just be advised, shots are being fired at this time, shots fired.
Then the final calls of relief came in as survivors were heard in the moments they saw the first responders coming to their rescue. As the community in Louisville continues to mourn the loss of those 5 people, we're learning more about those who died. The family of Juliana Farmer says she had just moved to Louisville to help her daughter with her 4 grandchildren. She had accepted a position at the bank just 3 weeks ago. Farmer's daughter, Alia Chambers, says she never could have imagined this would have happened to her mother. She says the family is still in disbelief.
I mean, that woman was phenomenal. She meant a lot to everyone. Didn't show no type of discrimination. She didn't care who you was. If you needed help, If you needed a shoulder to cry on, if you needed money, food, anything,
she's there.
My mama was there.
Chambers says her mother had a heart of gold. She says she's now focused on supporting her family. Yesterday, Governor Andy Beshear sat down with CNN and talked about losing his friend Tommy Elliott in the shooting. He says he was notified almost immediately on Monday and went straight to Louisville. The governor says Old National Bank, where the shooting happened, is the bank he uses, and he once had a campaign office in the building. He says Elliott was a close personal friend, and he was the one who made the tough call to his wife to tell her he had been killed.
I've been governor during this pandemic. I've been governor during tornadoes and floods and negative 45-degree wind chills and everything else. And we've lost a lot of people during those, but calling your friend's wife, who is also your friend, to tell her that her husband is gone is amongst the hardest things I have ever done. But at the same time, she deserved to know.
The governor also expressed sympathy for all the families involved, including the gunman's. He says even though he killed his friend, he can't imagine what his parents are going through right now. 2 patients are still being treated for their injuries. That includes Officer Nicholas Wilt, who remains in critical condition after being shot in the head. Yesterday, we heard from Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jason Smith about the hospital's response to Monday's shooting. Dr. Smith detailed the trauma the hospital responded to as 8 victims were treated. He said in his 15 years as a trauma surgeon, he's seen gun violence become more worse.
I'm not a policymaker, I'm a doctor, but people need to understand what happens when something like this impacts a community. You need to understand what it's like to have to tell someone that they're not coming home. You know, if we don't start speaking out about what we're seeing, there's no other way to let the public know what is happening within the trauma centers and the emergency departments around this country.
Dr. Smith became emotional talking about the need for change and calling on policymakers to address the increase in gun violence. He says he heard from colleagues who says praises his words about a problem that's affecting cities across the country. Investigators say Connor Sturgeon legally purchased the weapon used in the shooting from a local gun dealer last week. That purchase was made on April 4th, just 6 days before his deadly rampage. The Louisville Metro Police Department did not reveal the name of the vendor who sold him the gun. The Louisville mayor says after Monday's tragedy, 40 people have been shot and killed in the city this year. He's calling on members of Congress and the state legislature to bring about some type of change.
These 5 victims should not be dead, just like everyone else who is killed by gun violence in our city, in our country, should not be dead. And so while there is a spirit of compassion and a spirit of coming together, and we are going to unite as a community stronger than other and share love and support for one another, I'm also hopeful that we are taking action.
Under state law, Louisville is not allowed to destroy illegal weapons that are confiscated. Mayor Craig Greenberg says that needs to be changed. The gun used in the shooting could eventually be put up for auction by the Kentucky State Police. Officials with the Richmond Police Department talked about the process, and they say it takes things on a case-by-case basis. Kentucky law says state police receive guns and ammunition confiscated by or abandoned by every law enforcement agency. If it's not used for official use, it will be sold at public auction only to federally licensed firearms dealers.
If we are having to get rid of the firearms, all of our firearms that we have from cases and for auction, they all go to the Kentucky State Police. So when they go to the Kentucky State Police, the KSP will operate under their regulations for what can be auctioned. Again, if it's an evidence item, many times we do not send that to KSP unless it's going to be destroyed.
The Louisville Police Department might handle the situations differently, but for police in Richmond, when a case is closed and they hand over a murder weapon to KSP, they usually get a court order or put a note for the gun to be destroyed.
Coming up on 6:10 here on this Thursday morning, Friday Eve, and we continue to see not a whole lot going on weather-wise. We take you to Somerset this morning. Temperature sensor out down that way, but you can see some light traffic going around the circle there in downtown. So just again, not too much to worry about weather-wise. Sensor-wise, a few out this morning. Not sure if it's a data glitch, if it's a power outage, what's going on, but they're kind of sensors that are pretty close to each other. But we're keeping an eye on things this morning. 40s and 50s, nearly 60 in Jackson. Looks like 41's our cold spot in several locations. Your breakfast forecast this morning, not looking too bad. Maybe just a little bit warmer than a little bit on the forecast there for some spots. But again, trying to split the difference there between those mid to upper 50s and those 40s out there this morning. So again, just depending on where you're at, could be a touch colder in spots. Keaton?
All right, thanks, Brandon, and thank you for joining Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. Coming up, there's new info about the person behind a massive leak of classified U.S. military documents. We'll tell you what that is when we come back.